Jack, welcome to the program.
Glenn, thank you so much for having me.
You're over in Switzerland still?
Yeah, we're over in Switzerland still. We're just outside the World Economic Forum. Boy, I've got to tell you, the amount of negative energy that takes place inside that forum, Glenn, you wouldn't believe the way they talk about people, the way they talk about how their world is going to be when they build things. Even before any of this detention situation took place, I knew I did not want to be there. Just on a spiritual level, it did not feel like a good place.
Oh,
and then we realized later on when I got my arms up against the building and they're frisking me and, realized, well, boy, I certainly had the right vibe about that.
Okay, so tell me what you were doing that caused this that you can think, because they have not told you yet, have they?
We've not gotten any official response whatsoever. In fact, when my friend Savannah Hernandez, also from Blaze, had come over, so she had come by and was confronting them during the detention, they told her, we have to have a reason to conduct what they called a control operation. But we do not have to tell you what that reason is.
Okay, now this is not the Swiss police, the Davos police. This is the World Economic Police, which I didn't know the forum had police. Did you?
So we're digging into this, and I did not realize this because going in there, security-wise, you've got so many world leaders from all around the world that you've got military forces, you've got Secret Service type forces for the various world leaders coming in from Africa, from Asia, from Japan, from across the Middle East, et cetera, and obviously across Europe. So you've got various units and various patches and uniforms that you're seeing just walking up and down the street in Davos. This was the first time that I had seen a patch, and having been in the military, it's kind of secondhand to read uniforms, read patches. This was the first time I had ever seen a World Economic Forum police patch on someone's uniform. Now, what was interesting is that it was directly under a patch that appeared to be a local Swiss police unit. However, I've heard of local police obviously providing security to private events, but I've never heard of some sort of deputization being done for one of these events.
So, Jack, have you seen, I'm looking at the patch now, and I cannot make out what the logo is. It looks like two rats or something. That would be too obvious.
I think it's actually two rams. So two mountain goats, essentially, going for some kind of Swiss angle there, the fact that it's held quite high up in the Alps here.
Okay. All right. So when you're just walking on the street, you had attended the forum and you were okay to go into the different whatever it is, star chambers?
We've been in a few of the chambers. So they had, they have a metaverse. They call it different houses. So rather than kiosks, they set up storefronts and they call them houses. So there's a Ukraine house, a Russia war crimes house, both funded by Victor Pinchuk Foundation, by the way, one of the top level donors to the Clinton Foundation. They also had the metaverse house. We'd been coming through, reporting on this. And then we were doing a stand-up, just a typical reporter stand-up on the side of the road outside where we thought was a nice shot because you could see the entrance, you could see the flags, you could see people coming and going. Been doing a couple shots there just for live hits as well as recording my own podcast there. One officer came by, plainclothes at one point, said, "Hey, just wanted to ask who you guys are. Here, see your press credentials." Handed them over. Sure, no big deal. Here you go. All right, you guys are good to go. So we'd been filming for about an hour. The crew had just taken a break to get some food, recharge the equipment, and we were planning to make a move to our next shot to meet up at a different spot that was a little bit higher up. And that's when two paddy wagons full of what we now know were our World Economic Forum police showed up like a quick response force. They came out, guns drawn, MP5s, that's your 9mm semi-automatic, and told us, you need to leave. You cannot leave. You need to stay here. And we need to check your papers again. And you need to tell us who you are, why you're here.
So you I'm assuming you just you said that they were, I think you used the word flagging you the whole time. That just means pointing a gun at you the whole time?
Well, flagging is a little different than directly aiming a gun at you. It's inadvertent aiming of a barrel in your direction, where if a negligent discharge came off, it would strike you. So there was one officer who, in particular, was flagging me for several minutes before I said something to him.
Okay. And so you turn over the paperwork, and then what happens?
Right. So we turn it all over and we say, here, we turned it over before. We'll turn, papers, please. So we'll turn it over again. At that point, they say, we need to frisk you. They took us one by one, sort of behind the building, behind a stack of, tables that had been set up there, frisked us, spread them, frisked, hand in the front, hand in the back. We're going to go through everything that you have, open your bags. They asked us to go to the van. They wanted to check out the van that we had brought. We rented a van and drove in with the whole crew and all the equipment. And all the while, we're asking them, why are you targeting us? We gave you our passes. We showed you who we were. We're traveling under Turning Point USA. They've got a whole Great Reset thing going. You go to tpusa.com. You've got a book up there right now, The Conservative Response to the Great Reset. Totally above board, nonprofit. Everyone's heard of it. You can go to the website very quickly and see it. And so I can only surmise, Glenn, that in the time where we handed our papers in the first time to the time we handed our papers in the second time, it didn't become about what we were doing. It was about who we were and why we were there.
Mm-hmm. So then how did this end up? I understand that they at one point said that, they wanted some of you to travel back to their van, which would sound like something that would happen in a movie. And then you disappeared.
And you mentioned, I appreciate your intro. You mentioned that I had served at Guantanamo Bay, and I said, look, I've done a better job of this than you guys are doing right now. When I was on the other side of the table in this line of work, you're not supposed to be so obvious about it, right?
Right.
And I said, no, if you want to, they said, we just want to review the footage. We just want to look over some of the things that you've been saying and some of the things that you've been filming.
Why
so
do they have? Do they have any authority to do that?
When they're sitting there and they've got guns that are pointing, essentially,
right.
coming in your direction. We didn't know exactly where we were going with this, but what I said at that point was, and there was this young detective who had come over, a woman, and said, we're going to just take them just to view the footage. So we can view the footage right here. We can take a look, and I can show you one or two clips because number one. Worst case scenario is the guy that goes to the van ain't coming back. Number two, they take the card, they delete things, they say you can't have this back, we're confiscating it, et cetera. Right? And I didn't want to get into that type of situation because look, you've done field reports. I don't want to lose all that footage. I've been working today.
Right. So they just went away. It released you. Is that because?
Well, no. At that point, that's when Savannah Hernandez showed up.
Right.
She shows up, and it's her showing up along with my wife, Tanya, my brother, and she is getting right in the face of these officers. Why are you detaining him? What is going on right now? That's when she's told by the detective, we have a reason, but we don't need to tell you the reason for this control operation. And she starts demanding it. She's going live. She's filming in HD. And at that point, when they realized that this thing was getting bigger than that they had bargained for, that's when they packed up. The quick response force went back into the two vans, and they disappeared into the gate within the confines of the World Economic Forum.
That is so bizarre. So bizarre.